Over the last few videos, we've made some upgrades to my 2017 F-150, and recently we've been able to put them to the test. We've loaded the truck close to its limit, we've gone on a camping trip, and put some of these budget upgrades to work, as well as used some of the equipment we've kept in the truck. So some of them worked exactly how I hoped, one of them not so much, and there's one thing that I definitely want to upgrade in the near future, so let's get into it. If you're new here, this is my 2017 Ford F-150 XLT Sport, and instead of buying a brand new truck for the trimmer I wanted that was $70,000, I'm building this one into something that fits how I actually use it. In my last few videos, I've upgraded suspension, changed the tires, added better organization inside the truck, and started dialing in the kind of setup I want for hauling, camping, road trips, etc. So in this video, I want to look back at how those upgrades actually performed in the real world, not on paper, not in the driveway, but doing the work I built this truck to do. The goal here isn't to build the most extreme truck, it's to build a truck that works better for real life. I also like using projects like this as real world benchmark, because it's one thing to install parts in the garage, it's a whole nother thing to actually go out and use them, spend a full day loading, unloading, driving, and do all that to see if they actually work. So for me, it's kind of the test that tells you if an upgrade was worth it, is if it performs when you actually need it to, not just on paper. The first real test we did for this setup was a haul project. So I had a landscaping project on the side of my house. I had to change the grass there. I wanted to put in a little gravel driveway. So just make the space a lot more useful. Loaded up the truck with a bunch of project materials from the local hardware store. Came down, put down the weed barrier and all that stuff. Got it prepped. And then it was time for the test. So we brought in 7 yards of gravel, had that brought in for me all at once, and then I had to go pick up the skid steer. So this skid was right up to realistically what this truck is capable of, and that's exactly why I wanted to upgrade the suspension in the first place. Not just for looks, but because I actually use this truck like a truck. Even though it's the 2.7 liter, the smaller motor, it still definitely gets used. So what I noticed right away was the truck felt way more controlled under load than it did before. It's not magically turning this F-150 into a Super Duty at all, but compared to stock, the suspension felt much more planted, less floaty, and more predictable when everything was loaded down. The theme of the Bilsteins, I think, is not harsher, it's just way more controlled. And that's what I found as I've been driving the suspension on road as well. It's more planted, it takes the corners so much better than it did before, and it doesn't float around. You know exactly where you're at and you know what's coming up. During the haul test, the truck performed great. So even though it's the 2.7 liter, it pulled okay for that amount of weight. I wouldn't pull it a long distance just with the motor, but that has nothing to do with the suspension. The suspension was awesome. So we loaded it down. It probably was riding right on the bump stops on the rear, but the front suspension definitely felt totally fine. It hauled the trailer amazing for how much weight it was on the smaller truck, and I think overall it did really well here. Hauling is only a small portion of what I use this truck for. I really don't haul that much with this truck as far as hooking up big trailers and things, but the real test came a few days later when we loaded up for a camping trip. So we loaded up for the camping trip, and it gave me a totally different kind of test. Instead of wait for the work project, we had gear, we had supplies, we had tools, everything else that turns a weekend trip into a full truck test. So that's what I like about this build, is it has to do both for me. So with the camping trip, we did end up loading the bed up. We had our cooler, we had all of our camp gear, got the kids in the back seat, and everybody loaded up for this trip. And the truck was pretty loaded down. I wouldn't say it was at its limit by any means, but it was loaded. One thing this trip made really obvious is that my bed cover is officially at the point where it needs attention. After about 10 years of use, it's done its job, but it's showing its age. It still works. I mean, it covers up everything. It keeps everything mostly dry depending on where you place it in the bed, but it's definitely one of the weak points of this truck right now. If there's one upgrade or really one part of this setup in general right now that I need to change sooner rather than later, it's the bed cover. And this trip really made it clear that one of the next upgrades I'm going to be doing on the truck has to do with that. So I'll be tackling that in a future video. And if you like this type of content, consider subscribing to follow along with the other upgrades we're going to have to do with the truck as well. Between the drive out, the trip itself, and the drive back home, this truck covered about 300 miles total on this camping trip, and it gave me a really good mix of freeway driving, rural highways, and some rougher little dirt roads, not too much, but some rougher roads to really get a feel for how the suspension is performing. On pavement, the biggest difference is confidence. The truck feels much more settled, especially with all the weight in there. It wasn't floaty at all. We had to drive a couple of canyons going up to where we went in Wyoming, and it really did just perform awesome. It's not dramatic, like race truck-like transformation or anything. It just feels like the truck should have felt from the factory. What I really wanted out of the suspension was a truck that could handle the real world abuse that I put it under when I go on some of these roads. And this was a very, very short drive compared to what I normally do. But I didn't want to ruin the street ride either. And honestly, the setup nailed that. In that short drive, it was so much more comfortable than it was before. This is exactly why I chose this setup over a flashy lift kit or something else. I wanted the capability that I could actually use, and for the budget that I had and the shocks we put on, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I've also got to give it to the tires. They definitely played a role into how this truck rides. With those load range C's, it handles some of those small bumps a lot better. And I feel like if I had a load range E's, I might not be as happy with the on-road performance of these shocks. So the other thing that I was really surprised with the tires was the extra traction that they provided over the ones I had on there before. Not that the ones I had were bad, but these actually did very well. On this camping trip, we ended up getting about 6 inches total of snow that we didn't expect. And so, you know, the dirt road was pretty slick on the way up, but the truck didn't skip a beat. I mean, I don't have the locker or anything in this truck, and it did awesome. Those tires, without airing down, provided so much traction, and I was super happy with the way they turned out. And it's always worth remembering, suspension gets all the attention, but the tires are doing a lot of the work. And so, I mean, I kind of chose those tires knowing they were going to be okay, because I've had some experience with a similar one on the Bronco, but I was really surprised and super happy with how they performed. Let's talk about the one upgrade I'm not totally sold on, and that's the lights. So I really like the upgrade itself, and I think in theory it needs to happen. The halogen bulbs are way too dim. It's pretty dangerous. They're easy to outrun. And as far as the ones I put in there, when they work, they're great. It's awesome to have the better headlights. But keep in mind, in this truck, they're computer controlled. It's all controlled through the body control module. So putting in that different aftermarket light, we're now relying on their electronics to communicate properly with the factory vehicle. And that's where some reliability issues have come in. So on the way up there, my sister texted me, hey, you have a headlight out. We stopped at the gas station. I cycled the key because we, went inside or whatever, came back out, turned it on, checked my headlights, and they were working again. So reliability is hit or miss. And I actually have been keeping the factory halogens in the truck with me just in case I don't get stranded somewhere without headlights at night. But it's not something that I planned on dealing with or that I really wanted to deal with. So it's possible there's a more reliable upgrade. I don't think I spent a ton of money on the headlights overall compared to some of the other upgrades. It was definitely the more economic choice as far as reliability and performance goes. So I mean, I got what I paid for. I feel like I just don't know that I'm totally sold on the F-150 LED's headlights yet. So we'll keep testing them. I'll let you know how they go over the next few months here for sure. Couple of smaller things I did was I did that video on the vehicle toolkits and showed you what I was keeping in the truck, and I also upgraded that Pelican case to fit under the back seat, and it was a lot more useful than I expected. It was nice not having to lift up the seat to get to any gear I needed as we were on the trip. I was able to access the band-aids because, you know, little kids trip and fall all the time and need something. So I was able to access those quickly. And then I also had a chance to use the toolkit a couple times. We needed it to get the trailer all set up. And then I also went and helped with a state automotive competition for work. And with the school we were at, it was hectic, crazy, and they didn't have tools for the station that I was helping with, and it was hard to find somebody that could open up one of the toolboxes. So I was able to quickly run out to the truck, and I had all the tools I needed to get the station set up, and it was for a brakes contest. So that was a good test of making sure I had tools I need, not just for my vehicle necessarily, but for the things that I run into every day. It was great. The best thing about the total setup as far as the gear went in general is it's not just about having the gear with you, it's about having it set up in a nice way so there's not loose random gear flying around the cab causing danger, or just being a pain to find because it's everywhere, realizing I maybe left something at home. That didn't happen on this trip because I was able to put the basic necessities in the truck. So it's not just the suspension that makes this truck setup good, it's having the right gear and having it organized in a way that I can actually use it. So that was really nice and a good change from what I've dealt with in the past. That brings us to what this whole build's really about, not just adding parts, but making the truck more useful. So after hauling highway miles, dirt roads, and a full camping trip, I can honestly say these upgrades did what I wanted them to do. The suspension was the biggest win by far. It made the truck feel much more controlled, more capable, and better matched to how I actually use it. The organization upgrades were smaller, but they've already proven that they matter in real life. Now, the headlights were the disappointment, kind of. You know, the actual upgrade itself is great, and I think finding the upgrade that works is going to be the key here, and we'll see over time how the one that I did performs. And the bed cover, that's probably the next weak link I need to fix. If you've made other upgrades to your truck, whether it's an F-150, Silverado, or Ram 1500, and you like them and like how they changed the truck's performance, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what's worked for you. And if you're building an older truck instead of buying something new, you're in the right place. I'll see you on the next one.